Hey, sixth graders, Miss Swack here. Today we're going to talk about absolute value. Now, absolute value sounds super serious, but it really isn't. Absolute value is simply a measurement of a number's distance from zero. I'll show you what that means in just a second. Absolute value does have a mathematical symbol. That is these two vertical lines that are on either side of a number. X would be any number, but it's these two vertical lines that are on either side that always means to calculate the absolute value of something. And the absolute value is always going to be a positive number. Okay, not a negative number. Even when you're dealing with the absolute value of a negative number, you're always going to get a positive number. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's say that we are dealing with the absolute value of -3. Remember, that's what these two vertical lines mean, or absolute value, and we're finding the absolute value of -3. Well, the absolute value of -3 is simply how far away from zero -3 is. Okay, if here's my zero, so -3 means I'm going 1, 2, 3 spots away from zero. So the absolute value of -3 is that +3. That's where that positive number comes in, because you can't be a negative number away from zero. You're always going to be a positive number away from zero. On the other side, okay, the absolute value of 6. Okay, well, if I'm going the other direction, the absolute value, I'm going to start at 0 again, and I'm calculating how far is 6 away from 0. So if I do my little jumps here, okay, we find out that 6 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 jumps away from 0. So the absolute value of 6 is simply 6. Clear that off. Okay, let's look at some where you might use absolute value. Now, as you get higher into math, you'll use absolute value even more, because they use absolute value in a lot of math that occurs after sixth grade. Our job is simply to introduce you to the concept and to introduce you to that idea that absolute value truly is a measurement away from zero. Okay? One of the ways that you're going to see us using it in sixth grade is with a comparison. Okay, that means I'm looking at the number 5 and I am comparing that. Is it larger or smaller than the absolute value of -8? Okay, well, if I think about it, the absolute value of -8 means how far away from 0 is -8. Well, -8's all the way down here. So if I make those jumps, again, I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 jumps to get to -8, which means the absolute value of -8 is just the number 8. Okay, so now I'm comparing 5 to 8. Well, I know that 8 is bigger than 5. So the absolute value of -8, even though that number is negative, and we tend to think of negative as being smaller than positive numbers, because we're finding the absolute value, that one is bigger. Another place that you're going to see absolute value being used is with equations in mathematical situations. For example, let's say Susie was walking from her house to the school, which is 3 blocks away. She started walking, she walked 2 blocks, then realized that she had dropped her homework a block back. So she walks back 1 block and to get it, and then walks the last 2 blocks from school. If we're looking at distance from home, okay, she starts off by going 2 blocks. Okay, that's where this comes in. So she's going 2 blocks, but then she has to walk back 1 block. So that's where our -1 comes in. So because she's going back, and then she walks the last 2 blocks from school. So she's walking this way 2 blocks. Then she goes back 1 block. Then she walks another 2 blocks to get to school. Okay, so she ends up still being 3 blocks from her house. 2 minus 1 is 1, plus 2 is 3. Get you to those 3 blocks. But that's not how far she actually walked. She actually walked more than that. Okay, that's where absolute value is going to come in. Okay, yes, she was going back a block, but she was still walking for that block. Okay, so she walked her 2 blocks, then she walked back a block, so the absolute value of -1, and then she walked 2 more blocks to get to school. So even though she's only 3 blocks from home, she walked a total of 5 blocks. Okay? Those are some examples of how we'll use absolute value in 6th grade.